Good morning, everyone who's going to be watching this, if it's morning when you are watching this. I am here with Dava Davin. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Who I'm pretty sure you're sort of a real life superhero after learning a little more about your background and really everything you somehow managed to fit into a day. So I'm super, super excited to get to talk and firstly hear about your story. So this is part of, just as a reminder to everyone, our Female Founder series, which is a series in which we're spotlighting successful entrepreneurs and female leaders in the real estate space, personally for my own inspiration and also hopefully to inspire all of you as well. So to kick it off, Dava, I would love to just hear a little bit about how did you get into the real estate industry and how did you get to being here today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking your time to do this. I'm very excited to be here. I kind of have a story not unlike many people that fall into real estate. Many times it's a second career, which it was for me. And I'm going to take you back. So in 2008, my family moved to Maine in the summer of 2008. And previous to that, I had worked in the corporate world in the pharmaceutical industry, sort of climbing that ladder. And we moved to Maine, and my soul relaxed a little bit. And I looked around and saw this beautiful life that I had, beautiful partner and children and lots of stuff. And I thought, I should be so happy, but maybe there's more. Maybe there's more to life. And I decided that I was going to leave the corporate world, and I wanted to work in the nonprofit sector and really just feed my soul and give back. And it was the summer of 2008 in Maine, and there frankly weren't any jobs, let alone the nonprofit sector. I honestly didn't even get an interview. Like, I could not find a job. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe that'll come in time, but I need to hop back into the workforce. So I got my real estate license. I had my first property that I owned in Connecticut was a multi-unit, and I had flipped a couple houses, so I thought, oh, I'm totally qualified to do this. So I got my real estate license in that summer of '08, and I just fell in love with this new lifestyle. It was very challenging because I didn't know anybody, I didn't have a community here, I didn't have a sphere of influence. So I got to reinvent myself and start from the bottom and start over. And I just felt like I really was able to be myself from the minute I woke up in the morning to the minute I went to bed. I never went to work again.
That sounds perfect. I'm super impressed too, and I should have mentioned this up front. So now you're the principal and broker owner of Portside Real Estate Group, the company that you founded, which also is the top woman-owned real estate company in the state of Maine, correct?
Correct.
So this was 2008 to 2020. I mean, 12 years. That's pretty, and that actually 2008 isn't when you started Portside. That was 2012, is that right?
Correct.
So that's pretty quick growth, and I'm kind of curious. You mentioned, you couldn't even get an interview. So what would you say to people who are kind of in your position now, who, or not now, but back then, who, have had some failures or aren't able to find their traction and keep having to pick themselves up, and from then to now you've experienced huge success. What do you attribute that to, and what would you say to someone looking for the same thing?
Well, that's a great question, and I think we have to look inward, and I wish I had someone that was supporting me during that time, but I would say, don't limit yourself. Don't put that ceiling on yourself. The opportunities are endless, and I think, especially as females, we sort of sometimes fall into a trap of expectations, and we need to let that go, and we need to be able to know that we can climb those mountains and we can accomplish anything.
That's great advice. I know probably a lot of people out there can hear that right now. This has been a tough year for a lot of people, and I'm curious how your business has changed, if it has changed, or sort of what you're experiencing on the ground now that maybe you haven't in the past.
Yeah, I feel like, um, you know, I think most business owners, we all went through the same thing. We had to pivot, the word of 2020, and, figure out how we navigate something that we've never experienced before. And I do feel there was a large sense of community, especially in the real estate industry, of leaders. I hopped on immediately on weekly mastermind calls with different groups because we were all going through the same thing, and that was really just really felt so much support in that. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. No, we've never experienced this before, but we were kind of in it together. And so sharing those ideas and, going through how do you run a company when you have 100 people that work for you and all working from home, and culture and connectivity, and it's such a part of us. So, that had to change, just like it had to do with every other company. So that was, probably the biggest change. I think the sort of coming out of it, we talked offline, Maine and Vermont, we were so fortunate not to have as many cases as other areas. So our market has sort of intensified. We had a little bit of a pause, and we had this intensified summer going on. And I think that's been the biggest shift, is sort of after the acute, dealing with those issues. And I think it's CEOs were sort of made for that. It's like, oh, there's this huge problem and we get to help. So I was strangely inspired during all of that time, sort of just, your adrenaline takes over. And now coming out of it, July was the best month that the company ever had, and August will be even better. So now it's like we're dealing with growth issues, and okay, how do we tackle now that we're on the other side of it? So short answer, I guess, is just, being all in every day as it continues to change.
I love that. There's so many things in there that resonated with me, from, the entrepreneurial mindset of sort of seeing a problem and having to solve it and kind of being that pit bull on it, to, just the cultural and connection components. One of the things that I've heard you and seen you say is that, you really put the real back in real estate, and it's really important to you to have those connections. And that really, really resonates with me and our mission at Union Street Media, to have real and genuine relationships as well. So I'm curious, in this, COVID era where a lot of people are very uncertain and mistrustful of what's coming next, how are you building trust, both with your agents and also with your clients? What are you doing to sort of foster that connection and build that trust?
That's a great question. I think, just being human, I think that kind of goes back to putting the real back into real estate. And, my journey to where I am now, it evolved, based on just attracting people to what we're doing. It wasn't a business plan, with checks and balances. It was really of how do we care about people? How do we create a safe place? And I know that sounds sort of bizarre sometimes, but that's what this business was built on. As an agent myself, agent turned into business owner, I wanted the space to be safe for people that are putting themselves out there at 100% commission. They don't have a lot of security. They're working very hard. They are under a lot of stress, and be able to open the door into Portside and instantly leave your armor at the door and know that this is a safe place. This is where you're cared about, you're loved, and we want to help you to be your best self. And I think that in itself hopefully builds trust when people feel safe. And I think that's hard. Everyone comes with their own baggage from their life, and to be able to enter a space that truly does feel safe, I think that resonates through the agents to the consumer, and then they in turn feel safe with the person that they're trusting for their purchase of the home or their sale of their home. So I don't really, I don't know the answer to how do we build trust. I think it's just because we just try to be human and to be sort of classic what you learn in kindergarten, to give more than you take every day. And at the end of that, you're creating a better world, a better place, and hopefully people trust that.
That's great. I feel like we need more Davas in the world right now, sort of walking the walk. Do you, so, kind of taking it up a level to the industry, I know that Mainers are a unique breed, and having lived in New England my whole life as well. Not, not everyone sort of follows that lead and kind of lives by that standard. And I'm curious what you're seeing in the industry at large. And you mentioned those sort of mastermind groups and your peers that you've really collaborated and networked with at the executive level as well. What are they saying? What are you seeing in terms of opportunities at large for the industry? Do you think this is a time of transformation, or do you think this is sort of back to basics, like dig into those principles of caring and genuineness and authenticity?
Great question again. I think that times of crisis truly bring out the best in people, and sometimes the worst, right? And I think we're seeing that sometimes on a larger scale. But I think for the industry, I think it will be a time of innovation. We might not see it right away, but there's very smart people out there looking at how we are doing business and how we've done it the same for a very long time. So I do think there'll be things born from that, which will be very exciting for the industry. I do think it's a time for leaders to shine. I think, the market is so good in most of the country as far as prices rising. I think we're seeing transactions being suppressed a little bit. But if prices go down, then that'll ease up. So I think we're in a really healthy place moving forward in the short run for real estate, which is a relief. We weren't sure whether the sky was falling or not when the coronavirus first hit. But I do. I think we're in a good place, and I'm excited to see what innovation does come from this.
Me too. Absolutely. So, and thinking about then the next couple of years, I know it's kind of hard living in the moment and being as busy as you are, and with the impact of the coronavirus still being somewhat unknown. Do you have an idea of what success looks like for you and your agents and clients in the next couple of years? Are there some things you really want to do, or that are sort of must-haves in terms of your growth trajectory as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we want to just keep getting better and keep being able to serve our clients the best possible way. And I do think with that, the company tends to grow because we attract more agents, and then we're able to help more and more people. So I do see us expanding up and down the coast a little bit. What's really exciting, though, is our sister corporation, which is the Portside Foundation, is a huge part of our company and our culture, and it's been challenging because it's based on 4 events a year that bring the community together and raise money and awareness for our local nonprofit partners. So we've had to shift in that respect and are doing things online. So I think when there is a vaccine, really diving back into our events and growing those and growing the foundation. We have spent this time coming up with different ideas and strategies to help our Mainers. And so we're really, really excited about that and to keep growing that reach. So that will be, stay tuned, but that'll be our big focus in the next couple of years.
That's really exciting, and thank you for all the energy I'm sure you put into that. Since we don't have the ability to be in person right now, either you or I or any of us, I am curious how you've leveraged technology differently or the same in the last few months, and how you see sort of what technology needs you see in the coming months for your team and maybe for the foundation as well as the brokerage.
Yeah, well, I can give you an example. So usually over the summer, we do an event called Rooftop Recharge. It is the only rooftop workout in Maine. And we go to the top of this parking garage, and there's teams of 4. And we do this, just really fun boot camp workout. And then there's an expo with, smoothies and like Lululemon apparel and spin bikes. And, we have this social health expo afterwards. So that was a really hard one to do, social distancing. So we did it virtually, and teams signed up. They did it in their backyards. We did it all on Zoom. And then our auction that we usually have, we did a silent auction. And what was so amazing was the agents didn't feel comfortable going to local businesses like we usually do and solicit a restaurant gift card or a retail gift card, because they're really suffering. Yeah. Here with tourism being down so much. The agents bought all of the auction items. They just donated thousands of dollars. And so that, doing the auction online with that premise of like, we're supporting local businesses and you can support, and our beneficiary is Girls on the Run. So it's a program for girls to help them, keep their voice and feel empowered through a running program. And so that was our beneficiary. So it was also fitting. So we pulled this off, and it was really, really magical. And I think where there's a will, there's a way. And my team is just so creative. It is led by our events and marketing director, and then everyone else is volunteers from our staff, from the agents. So that's so technology has come into play to be able to keep connected. We had they put together little goodie bags, set up a tent outside, and had people stop by to get them. So we're trying to social distance and connect the best that we could. And again, I do think that we'll see the technology coming into the real estate industry from this. We've always been a paperless company since the onset, so we've always just had everything, online, and is tried to stay ahead of everything as we could, and we're just excited to continue with that momentum.
Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful story. It's very inspiring, and I think that one of the things I love that you said is how your team sort of came together, volunteered, but also pulled this off, and sort of where the ideas are coming from. And I feel like there's a common thread through this conversation of sort of this almost organic movement that you've created, which really, I don't want to say wasn't intentional, because I think you've treated people with intentionality and sort of how you wanted to be treated, the golden rule. And it seems like people are kind of just following you and just making it bigger than you originally imagined. And that's really cool. So firstly, I just want to say congratulations. You've built a wonderful brand. And secondly, I guess if you're giving advice or sort of looking towards other either female founders or people in the space, founders in general, or broker owners, how can they sort of replicate some of your successes on the marketing front, maybe either with events or organic brand building or intentional customer acquisition? I mean, what do you credit this sort of brand and this following to?
I think when I wanted to start my own company, I looked around at all the different franchises and the different options out there, and there's so many great brands, and I just really took the things I liked from each one of them, and tried to blend it together, and just felt like real estate's been done the same way, and it's just replicated in town to town all across America, and so we're not really doing anything differently than any other company. I think we have a lot of heart and a lot of energy, and we try a lot of things, and not all of them stick, but I think it's just constantly trying to bring yourself into it, and the ideas from the team, I mean, I hope that this is, feels like a safe place where people can be like, hey, should we try this? And without that constant creativity kind of coming up and being allowed to let it roll. I think that's really where it comes. So I guess advice to someone starting out is like, just go for it, take that idea that, you kind of secretly really do want to do, but maybe it sounds silly, and see if you can make it work. And really knowing why you're doing this. There's plenty of businesses that you can start that might be more profitable or, less hours, and, just to really know truly why you want to open a brokerage.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that, if it is to sprinkle kindness and goodness around the world, then you can do some events and get make people happy. And it really just depends on what you're really going for. I think too, the single most thing I would tell someone that is looking to start a real estate company or frankly any business is to write out your goals, cross them out, and multiply them by 5 or 10, and just really, go for it. Otherwise, there's no point. There's no point to being mediocre. Like, you have to want to, create something that is way bigger than you ever imagined, or you'll never get there.
Yeah. Says the 4-time Ironman finisher. Is that how many you've done now?
I've done 4 Ironman, and I think that's a great example of, a middle-aged person that was not an athlete, never played sports, that you are capable of so much. You already have everything inside of you right now to accomplish any goal. It's just a matter of showing up and duplicating it every day. And Ironman is a perfect example of that. Like, anyone can do it. You just have to be, silly enough to show up every day.
Totally. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Absolutely. I love that. And clearly you are so passionate and have so much heart, and I can tell that just in this conversation. And I think to be as successful as you've been, you also you have to be, making money and having those goals where you are evaluating when your team is trying new things and you're going through that experimentation phase, what success means and when it's not, cutting your losses and moving on. And so I'm kind of curious from, a business owner standpoint, what kind of data are you looking at every day to make decisions on, what's successful, what's not, what you need, and sort of what systems do you have to give you that view into the success of your brokerage and possible blind spots or things you need to do differently?
Great question. All the analytical people watching this are probably, their stomach's going to churn, but I really do believe a lot on intuition. Absolutely. We have software where I can see the competition's every move and what they're selling and what their trends are, and I do look at them, but I can only control my company. At the end of the day, if every agent is happy and cared for, they are going to be successful and the company becomes successful. And that's really hard to judge by a spreadsheet, but I truly, truly believe that. And my biggest failures are when an agent is going through something and I didn't notice it. That is where I feel like I fail. People want to do their best. People want to contribute, and if they're not, something's going on. And that's, our job as leaders to unpack that and really figure out what's going on. So yes, there's metrics out there, and that's more of me just kind of judge like how I am, where am I in relation to where the market is. But looking at the agents as individuals with, their production numbers and their personal health, and happiness really is a factor that we look at as a staff, almost daily. We are just trying to keep track of everyone and making sure that they're where they want to be and where they need to be.
And it sounds like, you mentioned earlier, sort of transitioning to Zoom, but always being sort of a paperless company. It sounds like you had been well set up to facilitate those connections online. But I would imagine, what does your average day look like now? Are you pretty much just checking in with agents like back to back, or I don't even know if you're still transacting your own business, or kind of maybe can you give me a glimpse into what your average day looks like in the COVID era?
Yeah, it is full. I have to say, from the minute that I wake up to the minute I go to bed, and I absolutely love that. I feel like if you're not hitting that pillow truly exhausted, you haven't lived a day. I feel a lot of my success is hard work, and I feel like that's available to everyone. And I think sometimes people are afraid to work hard, especially in the real estate industry, because there's a lot of times you can work really hard and not get compensated for it. The compensation comes later, and sort of that's the delayed gratification, and that's something that's very hard to stomach sometimes. So to put a lot of effort in and to not see results right away. So my day, to answer your question, is usually booked all the way through. Whether it's external meetings, internal meetings, it's pretty dialed in. Probably to the 15-minute mark. We totally changed how we work as a staff when coronavirus hit. We meet now, all of us, at 8:30 every morning, and that has just really helped us move the ball forward, because we're not waiting a week for the next meeting. We're really every day just sort of working, because we're not seeing each other in the hallways. We still have staff opting to work from home and whatnot. So that's been really, really helpful to kind of, get things done on a daily basis. We created some really neat subgroups for the company. We have, during the coronavirus, the Next Gen group was born. And so this is our agents under 35 that are our future leaders. And so now they're able to connect just them, and they've created like their own Facebook group, and they have, they're really coming up with a lot of really great ideas and bringing those back to the company. We've created other small groups like that to keep that connectivity and change things up, because we aren't seeing each other on that daily, casual basis. We've had to create it a little bit more, but we've really seen those grow and some new things happen from that.
That's awesome. You seem like you're so agile, and we're already somewhat prepared for this. And also, there's some really good advice in there for maybe people who were caught a little bit off guard and weren't ready. And I also think just the fact that you really are listening to your agents and really prioritizing them. David Ogilvy always said, "Happy wife, happy life," and I both love and hate that quote, because I think it goes the other way around too. And as an advertising nerd, I think a happy customer, happy employees, happy customer. So I think that applies too. So I know how busy you are, so I'm not going to continue to ask you a million questions, although I'm sure we'll have to run a marathon someday, because in that 4 hours or 3.5 hours, we can get a lot more chatting in. But I actually have run 2, so I'm inspired by you. Awesome. I haven't ever done any Ironmans, but maybe someday. But I do want to ask you one more question, just a fun one, which is, what's something that nobody knows about you, or most people don't know about you, some fun fact that you'd be willing to share?
That's a great question. I was born in England, and as a kid, I lived in 4 countries by the time I got into middle school. So we traveled around a lot, and I think that little, the way that I grew up, I think really translated into being a great realtor, just really being able to relate to, your home is, your house is not your home. You take yourself and your family with you. So yeah, that's a fun fact.
That's awesome. Well, Dava, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Just for everyone, as a reminder, this is Dava Davin, principal and broker owner at Portside Real Estate Group, the, I believe, 5th largest in the state of Maine now, right? All right, soon to be 1st largest, and the largest woman-owned firm in the state. So thank you so much. I'm Rachel Allard, SVP of Strategy at Union Street Media. This is our Female Founder Series. Stay tuned for the next one.